Laura, thanks again. Most of us live here and work here, and as much as possible, we'd like our other community residents to do business with us, instead of with businesses that have no physical presence here in the interior. Whether the business is based in interior Alaska or elsewhere, all businesses that have a footprint in interior Alaska have made an investment in our community. They may occupy a building and pay for local utilities. They may pay property taxes or buy supplies locally, or they may have employees that live and work in our community. But they have all in some way made an investment in interior Alaska. The Greater Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce not only encourages chamber members to support other chamber members, but beyond that, we also encourage chamber members and the community at large to support businesses, when possible, that have made the investment of maintaining a physical footprint in interior Alaska. Today we've invited our guest panel of local experts to share with us their thoughts and their reasons of why it's important to our community for us to buy local. I'll now introduce our panelists and tell you a little about them. I'd like to ask that you hold your welcoming applause until all have been introduced. Our first panelist, let's see, you're setting a different order than I have here. So I'm gonna ask you to raise your hand when I call your name. That'll be a lot easier than for me to skip around through my notes here, and I probably introduce, because I have Bobby as the first person to the left, and I see that that's Jack Wilbur. I know that's not Bobby. Bobby Callis, though. Bobby is two next to June, in between June and Sean. Bobby's the manager of Apocalypse Design. She was born in Alaska and has lived here most of her life. And she and her husband are proud parents of a newly born baby girl. Dave Atchison is next. He's sitting here right next to me. Dave's the general manager of Alaska Tent and Tarp. Alaska Tent and Tarp is based in Fairbanks, but also they have a facility in Anchorage. They have 35 employees, and they produce primarily fabric-based products for many sectors, and they're best known for their Arctic environmental containment solutions and their Arctic Oven tent series. Amy Nordrum? Yeah. So. Amy's the communications coordinator for the Downtown Association. She helped develop the Fairbanks First Think Local initiative, and prior to moving to Alaska, she worked in the Office of Sustainability at Ohio University. Welcome, Amy. And then we have Sean O'Shea. Sean is the program manager with Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation. He's the current director of the Fairbanks First Buy Local program. He moved to Fairbanks as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer prior to accepting his current position. June Rogers is executive director of the Fairbanks Arts Association. She's a lifelong Alaskan and is co-owner, along with her husband Bill, of a McCafferty's Coffee House on Cushman Street. And then we have Jack Wilbur. Jack is the president of Design Alaska. He was born and raised in Fairbanks, a fourth-generation Alaskan, and a graduate of UAF. He's been active over the years in many community and business support organizations. He's currently the board chairman of NBDC, and he's also a member of the Greater Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Please join me in welcoming them today. Okay, now we'll begin today's panel with a 90-second opening statement from each panelist, starting with Bobby.
Thank you, Steve. Well, as he said, my name is Bobby Callis. I'm the manager over at Apocalypse Design. I've been there for almost 2 years, but they have been in business for almost 30 years. Now, Mr. Flaherty, when he first started the business, he noticed that the gear that he was looking for, he could not necessarily find in Fairbanks. So he decided to create the gear that is going to outlast Fairbanks environment, rather than trying to continuously replace his gear based on what he could find outside. On top of doing this outdoor gear, which he calls expedition gear, which is parkas, bibs, hats, mittens. We also do a wide variety of custom bags and covers for everyone from state agencies to law enforcement to local businesses and even the general public. We do a very wide variety of stuff, and having the sew shop locally gives us the flexibility to allow you to customize your gear for your needs. You know, what you find from Columbia, you may be stuck with, okay, you have your standard 3 to 5 pockets. Whereas with us, you can say, I need a pocket to fit my iPod. I need a pocket to fit my iPad. I need a pocket to fit my iHome. You know, whatever you need, we can create a pocket to put in that jacket or those pants or those bibs.
Thanks, Bonnie. Dave, could you tell us about yourself next, please?
Pardon me on the microphone. My name is Dave Atchison. I'm the general manager of Alaska Tent and Tarp. A lot of familiar faces out there, so I know some of you already. Alaska Tent and Tarp has been in business for 68 years in Fairbanks and doing business locally here. Similar reasons, but Alaska Tent and Tarp has branched out in a few different directions that make it a little bit unique. We're a true production facility. We have a production plant, and all of our production work is done here in Fairbanks. We also maintain a retail space that does some custom sewing down at our Anchorage location. And we've just recently opened a commercial sales division, which is a third division in our company. And I'm in charge of overseeing all of those particular divisions within the company. Everybody knows the Winterfront that's been on lots of vehicles driving around. They're not the prettiest thing, but they help you stay warm in the winter, and that's a primary concern. And so Alaska Tent and Tarp is proud to do that. We also produce the Arctic Oven tent line, which currently we have over 500 tents throughout the world, Antarctica, Greenland, many different scientific research facilities use our tents for base camps as well as some military projects too. But the main reason why Alaska Tent and Tarp is up and running and so successful is that we produce the primary and secondary containment systems for the North Slope to keep our environment clean, as well as allow us to produce natural resources within the state of Alaska.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy with the Downtown Association of Fairbanks. I'm the communications coordinator there. And the Downtown Association is a nonprofit dedicated to promoting, preserving, and revitalizing the downtown area. We represent over 100 member businesses and work to promote them in many different ways. We do business advocacy. We organize big events like the Midnight Sun Festival and the Summer Downtown Market. We're also very active in promoting these businesses through our newsletter, website, social media, and other venues. Here today, we are mostly, there's 2 different ways, I guess, to think about the Think Local, Buy Local initiative. We work mostly with connecting consumers and Fairbanks residents with downtown businesses. We've done less on the business side of things, encouraging businesses to support other downtown businesses, but we're moving a little bit more in that direction, especially with the downtown market, where we've encouraged many of our local restaurants to source from the growers at the downtown market and make that extra step in, sourcing higher quality ingredients and allowing us to promote that for them. And we work in the Think Local mission in a very downtown specific way. We take it and interpret it as bringing a strong city center to the residents and employees of Fairbanks, and how that enriches the social fabric and economic environment here in the city. Another thing that I will mention is that before this position, I was over the Fairbanks First program for a short amount of time, and my research with that program and others around the country that have been really successful in promoting this sort of buy local philosophy and mindset is that these programs really work best when they're kind of take on a life of their own and the residents actually own it and support it instead of standing alone. So it's something that we really have to get behind if we want to succeed here.
Thanks, Amy. Sean.
My name is Sean O'Shea. I am currently a program manager at the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation, and formerly I was an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer serving as the program director for Fairbanks First. Fairbanks First is the Buy Local, Think Local program for the Fairbanks North Star Borough, advocating for a 10% shift in consumer expenditures from outside the borough to within the borough. And if this 10% shift can be achieved, we can generate $376 million worth of direct and indirect economic activity for the borough, which could then translate into close to 1,700 new well-paying jobs. I would just also like to take a moment, not to counter what the esteemed Mr. Lundgren said, but I am not currently running the Fairbanks First program. We actually got, 3 weeks ago, got a very accomplished new Vista named Eric Knox, who was sitting right over there with his camera. And so I would just like to let the community know that Eric Knox is doing a fantastic job, and that from now on out, he'll be running the day-to-day operations for the Fairbanks First program. Thanks.
Okay, Sean, thank you, and I'll be sure to update my notes. June, next, please.
My name is June Rogers. I'm director of Fairbanks Arts Association and have been volunteering there with that organization since 1981 and been director for 16 years. It's a place that I love, and as you all know, we pretty much network with every aspect of the community. I think that the arts really need to be integral to everything that's happening in Fairbanks in order to create a rich and healthy environment for our families and developments for our businesses here. My husband and I purchased a building down on Cushman Street quite a few years back, about 13 years ago, I guess, in order to put his recording studio in a more commercial location. And McCafferty just kind of came along with that because we tabled the building in order to be able to have live performances that would be recorded, and you needed to serve something if you were going to have people in for live performances, and so then we needed to have a counter and we needed all that. So that kind of took over. A lot of people don't even realize there's a recording studio in the basement. And it's a pretty nifty one besides. The McCafferty's is one of those special places that I tried to recreate that reminded me of Fairbanks in my youth, a place where we could gather and come together in a very casual setting. And I'm hoping that we accomplish that. We have a lot of people that come and enjoy the atmosphere there, and also the artwork that we share with everyone there, because I do think that's important that people come to those places, also be able to experience some really wonderful art experiences. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, June. Now, Jack.
Thanks, Steve. I'm president of Design Alaska, a local architectural and engineering firm that's been in business in Fairbanks since 1957. Think local, spend local is nothing new to me. My family has been in Fairbanks for a very, very long time, and my dad was a local small businessman. And so it was drummed in my head from an early day, the importance of spending your money locally. And when I became president of Design Alaska, it really came to fruition for me how important that is. You know, how important it is for my business that we have a healthy economy and to earn our livings from. And part of a healthy economy is the residents and the businesses in our economy, you know, spend their money locally. So if I have one wish, it's that each of you today will leave this session with renewed resolve to spend your money locally and help your local community. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, thank you very much. Now I have select questions for our panelists. Our first question is for Dave with Alaska Tent and Tarp and with Bobby from Apocalypse Design. How do you make your products and services more competitive for local consumers than online or out-of-town options? And let's hear from Bobby first, please.
That was kind of an interesting question for us to answer. With us having the sew shop out back, I feel that we're able to be far more competitive than, let's say, Columbia or Helly Hansen or North Face, for that matter. People can come into our shop and they can take a look at our standard designs, and beyond that, they can customize, like I mentioned earlier about adding specific pockets for specific items, or maybe they need special sizing based on their particular body style or body type. We're able to have that flexibility to give our customers that very wide versatility in what they get. And we're able to make them fit their specific needs far better than something they just pull from the local website, or not so much local website, but from a website in general. On top of that, our warranty is completely local. You don't have to send off to get your stuff repaired. You don't have to risk them deeming it unrepairable and then they send you a jacket at their discretion. That was my favorite line that I found. Beyond that, we never consider anything unrepairable. We can always do something to get it back to its roughly original state. People in Alaska, I've found, we grow very attached to our cold weather gear and how they work, and we like to keep them that way.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Dave, can you tell us, how do you make your products and services more competitive?
That's always a challenge for, I think, everybody that is out here that's in business and working in commerce. I think first off, we invest in our raw materials as a production plant. So we invest heavily in those raw materials so that we have specialized materials that work for the products that we make and that we have them on hand. It's one thing to order something from the lower 48 for either recreational use or, in our case, in the environmental containment business, and then wait for that product to show up. When you have a hole in the ground and times money on the North Slope, we're able to make these products and invest in the materials to make the products. And so we have that on hand, and so then it becomes a manufacturing issue as far as timelines. So we try to make quality products that are very specialized for the needs of not only the public but the commercial business up here. And I think that makes us very competitive in that larger industry. In the recreational goods, we just make the best tents. And so if somebody wants something to use in the Arctic and stay warm, we're the place to go. And we stand behind our products. We make those all by hand right here in Fairbanks. We bend the metal, we sew every stitch. And so we stand behind it, and there's something to be said for if a person has a problem with a broken pole or a lost stitch, just come in and we'll sew it up and you're back on your way. You don't have to send it back, wait for delivery. You can get out on your snow machine and go do what you want to do.
Okay, Dave, thank you. Next question for Amy and Sean. What role do advocacy groups play in changing buying habits? Amy first, please.
I was thinking about this question, and I kind of kept coming back to the idea of added value and things that a collective group of businesses can do above and beyond the capabilities of one individual business, and some of the services that we provide for our member businesses in downtown Fairbanks. And I think there are four main things that I guess I'll touch on. One is awareness, and just stating the fact that there is a reason to support local or to support downtown above and beyond other sections of town, and that there's something about that city center and having that strong city center that is worth going out of your way to support, or that is worth investing your money and your time and your love in. And the other thing is identity and brand, because businesses themselves are only operating out of their individual storefront or restaurant, and it helps sometimes to be part of a bigger whole. And I think that downtown Fairbanks does that in a way for individually, locally owned businesses that helps bring them up and actually advocate for them on a bigger level. So for example, McCafferty's is part of downtown Fairbanks, and Lavelle's is part of downtown Fairbanks, and the Pomegranate on 2nd Avenue is part of downtown Fairbanks, and we can do more for them in that capacity than them as individual business owners can sometimes swing. Also bringing the buzz to downtown Fairbanks as a whole, and then reintroducing that into the individual businesses. Not many businesses, our business owners, especially here locally, have time and effort to organize events or campaigns, and we can do that on their behalf. The last thing is telling the stories of individual businesses, and I think that's one thing that really helps build relationships between citizens and their businesses, and we do that through articles and photos through our website and promotional materials.
Great, Amy, thank you. Okay, Sean, what role do advocacy groups play in changing buying habits?
I knew Amy would knock that one out of the park. So I decided to go a different way. And I was thinking about what other advocacy programs are there. And I thought about public health organizations that advocate against a specific disease. And what do? They try and change the habits of whatever it is that causes that disease. Whatever it is that people do that they can then change, whether it be sugar or cigarettes or alcohol consumption, that have a leading factor to this disease. And so what are the habits that are, as far as buying local goes, that are problematic for the community of Fairbanks? And one of the biggest ones is spending your money outside of Fairbanks. It's both individuals and businesses spending their money outside of their own community. It's a community issue when 51 cents of every dollar is spent outside of the community. It's a community issue that we need a viable, urban landscape with which to, center things around. And to go with what Jack said, that we need to have renewed resolve. Because so often we have panels like this, and I go out and speak to people, and you're speaking to the already converted. Like if you are a chamber member, you've pretty much committed yourself to buying from other chamber members or buying from within the community. But what we need to do, and what the real goal of advocacy is to have the renewed resolve that Jack was talking about, and go out there and be ambassadors to others for the cause of buying and shopping locally and supporting your own community.
Okay, Sean, thank you. Our next question's for June and Dave. What challenges have you faced in trying to buy locally? June?
Trying to buy locally is not nearly as challenging. I've thought this over. It's hard for me to come up with too many challenges because I generally do find what I need in Fairbanks. So there's a few things that we do need to go outside of our community for, but they're the exception rather than the rule. And so I think many times, such as Sean just mentioned, sometimes buying habits. When I was a kid, we grew up with catalogs, and we ordered everything from outside, Sears and Roebuck and Montgomery Ward's, and we all met at the counter at Sears when we were picking up our packages, and at Christmas time it was especially fanciful because we were big packages coming in, and then you have the stress and worry of whether it was going to get there on time. But we don't so much have that anymore. I think that we have a very well-rounded community with a lot of things available to us, and so perhaps some of our old habits need to change. And also, I think using some of the services of organizations such as the Downtown Association that bring highlight of directory information that tell you where a local artist is or where a new business is, and paying particular attention to those roadmaps, I think can help us particularly with discovering the new products that are here in addition to those that are regularly available to us. I think we have a really, really good supply here in our community.
Okay, June, thank you. Now, Dave, what challenges do you face trying to buy locally?
I think all of us that live in Fairbanks, we're at the end of the road, and depending on what product you're looking for, if it's a specific product, in our case, to manufacture something, we try to source within Fairbanks if we can. One, it speeds up my delivery times, and getting products out. I guess everybody looks at what is local. Is it Walmart? Is it Fred Meyer? And so we make a decision at the family level to try our best to make that judgment call for what we feel is a local business. And I guess employing people in that town that have jobs and are raising families here is local to me. I have people that work for me that spend their money in Fairbanks, as well as Fred Meyer store has employees that spend their money in Fairbanks. And so one thing I'd like to see, and it's difficult, and as speaking to the challenge, is a local grocery store. The local grocery market, I know we struggle with that here in town, and my wife loves the farmer's market, and I love the fact that we've developed that and seen that grow. It'd be nice to have something in the year round. I think everybody could kind of A lot of people are nodding their head out there. It'd be nice to be able to buy groceries in Fairbanks from a small business. So that's one challenge I think that we face in the family budget. And when we're buying, everybody eats. So that would be one challenge that we face.
Dave, thanks a lot. Okay, and then finally for Jack, our last question. How is Think Local different for service sector businesses?
That's a good question, Steve. When most people think local, they think buying products from a retailer. But for us, they don't think about the service sector. There are two primary differences between the service sector and retailers. One is, what is it you are purchasing? For the service sector, what you're doing is purchasing somebody's time. For the retailer, what you're doing is primarily purchasing products that are imported and then resold. Examples are architectural engineering services like Design Alaska, legal services, accounting services, training services, any business where you are primarily purchasing a person's time rather than a product that is imported and resold. So why is that important? It's important because for the service sector, you get a lot more of your money that is reinvested in the community, because everything we spend is on wages. Everything we spend goes into the pocket of somebody that lives here in Fairbanks. We really don't send much of our money outside of the community to bring products into the community. So the multiplier effect of money spent on services exceeds that from money spent on retail. The second difference is who is our competition. For the retailer, the competition, I would say, is primarily the internet. For us, for the service sector, in Fairbanks, the primary competition is Anchorage. And to some degree, the outside of Alaska, but primarily in Anchorage. And why is it that people turn to Anchorage rather than Fairbanks? They find firms that have more experience, that they think can do it better, so they go to Anchorage. In my mind, the decision factor should be, can a Fairbanks firm do an adequate job? If they can do an adequate job, then they ought to be retained to do the job. Just because there's somebody in Anchorage that can do it better isn't an excuse for going to Anchorage to procure those services. And then lots of times, the decisions as to who retains the service sector are made by people who live in Anchorage. Lots of government entities have their main base in Anchorage. And it's amazing, but when you're returning services for something that happens in Fairbanks, they would rather have somebody in Anchorage do it because they're closer to those people. Those people are closer to the people who are buying the services, but further away, from where the services are actually employed. And so what can you do to help along those lines? Especially, for those people, those businesses that are located in Fairbanks, it's a no-brainer. You employ the services of people in Fairbanks. There's lots of business leaders out here that are associated, maybe a branch office or something like that, of a parent company that lives in Anchorage. Those companies are more likely to retain Anchorage firms because they have an association with them. So your job is to try to convince your parent companies that it's worthwhile spending that money in Fairbanks. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, thanks a lot. I think we have time for a couple questions before I turn the mic back over to Lorna. Does anybody out there have a question, a buy local question? Lisa.
I do. So, Bobby, you had mentioned like Columbia, North Face, and things like that. So when people want to buy Apocalypse Design jackets, are they only able to go to Apocalypse Design, or how does, like McCafferty's Coffee, Apocalypse Design's jackets, Alaska Tent and Tarps, tents, do they also make it into those box stores that are selling some of your competitors' products? And what challenges have you guys seen with that area?
Currently, we just have our retail store, which is over on Minnie Street. Of course, you can always go to our website and place orders through us over the phone. I'm pushing to try and expand our products and give them more of that visibility, not only in the state of Alaska and not only in the city of Fairbanks, because of course we're a business. Our ultimate goal is to sell more, to make a profit. And so I think it's nice for a lot of Alaskans to have that down home feeling and be able to, okay, there's this one place where you can go and get these really cool jackets, hint, hint. But I think at the same time, it would really open up people's eyes to what Alaskans can do and what those small businesses can do by trying to get your products out, you know, to far more places. So I'm kind of working on that, pushing a little.
Okay, yes.
Yes, as Jack alluded to there, many people in Anchorage are only shopping in Anchorage because perhaps part of it's the perception that there is a quality difference, when I think we realize that there is better quality here for many products and services than other places around. I'm wondering, is this going to be a factor then of marketing, something that Sean and Amy are more familiar with, or how to do this? I mean, people invest money, bypass maybe some of the big investment banks like J.P. Morgan in favor of a fellow in Omaha, Nebraska, because of the quality.
Good question, Don. Thank you for that. Would anybody here on our panel like to take a stab at responding to that? Amy,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think it is a question of marketing to some extent. I think it's important for the businesses to meet you halfway. Just because a business is local does not necessarily mean that they have better customer service or quality, which is something we all have to realize as well. But I think that customers are willing to support local businesses through marketing that's already been done and through marketing that we continue to do because they realize the added value. Well, first of all, the enhanced quality in many cases of local businesses, but also the added value, if there's still a little bit of catching up to do, of supporting your local businesses and your local economy first. We haven't worked that angle so hard at the Downtown Association. We do try to promote the downtown brand and talk about all the things that are happening downtown, but I think that the Fairbanks First Think Local program is doing that more in a specific way to all local businesses here in the interior.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Any other questions? Mike?
I just think Bobby ought to mention their zipper replacement business, because for jackets, parkas,
I
sleeping
only get
bags and that,
so
it's
much
a great
time.
thing.
She can only replace so many zippers. But apparently, if you need a zipper replaced, talk to Bobby. Colleen?
Well, women's department store, you know, we had Nordstrom's and it left, and then we had Penny's and it left. And then down in Seattle, well, they, you know, don't charge us any tax, and so they have those stores where we were accustomed to shopping, but now with losing Gottschalk's, we don't have a solid department store that women like to shop in.
Well, I think, so Jack has an answer to that. Jack?
Well, the reason, you know, that places like Nordstrom leave is because we don't spend enough money there. You know, if we spent more money there, rather than sitting in our recliners at home and dialing up something on the internet, you know, then they could stick around. You know, so it's a matter of making that choice. You spend your money locally, and then more firms like that, you know, can be around. And it's the same thing with men's clothes. There's nothing, you know, women don't have a lock in that respect. It's real difficult to find, you know, good men's clothes here too, and it's the same thing.
I don't
Rebuttal, Colleen.
Well, I don't think in the case of Penny's, because Mr. Martinson that used to be there, I went there to get advertising, and he said it was made more money than anyone on the West Coast, and yet they pulled it out because we actually are the center. I mean, we service this whole interior.
Good,
so I don't think
point.
in Penny's case that it was that we didn't spend enough there.
good point. And so I think June would like to make a comment.
Well, I was going to say, I also understand that to be true with Kmart and Avrida stores where they really did make their money here, but a national decision was made to close, and Gottschalk's the same way. It was very profitable. And that's why I, for years, have reminded people, shop at Cindy's Boutique. We need to have Cindy's Boutique be there, and we have to remember that it's there. We have to make sure that those businesses are viable and are there for us, because those smaller businesses will go away if we don't shop there. And that's just one in a list of about 50 other places, really. If we look around our community, there's a lot of small boutique businesses that really need our dollars.
Okay, that wraps up our time. I appreciate your participation. Could I ask, please, to give a round of applause for our panel? Okay, Lorna, the mic is yours.
Thank you.
Every week I realize I need to wear higher heels. Alright, so I can stand on my toes here. Thank you. I really appreciate the information that you folks shared with us today, and I think it's an important decision that we all need to make each day, that we're going to spend our dollars here in our community so we can help grow our community. And as part of that, as the board chair of the Fairbanks Chamber, I'm really excited to tell you that the board passed a resolution that's on your tables. It's this one here, supporting the Think Local Fairbanks First program and the broader vision to shift 10% of our purchases by residents and businesses that are now made outside of the Fairbanks area to within the Fairbanks area. You know, and from a business perspective, sometimes you have to make the decision to pay a premium to do business locally, and oftentimes it is worth it. So I'd encourage you to try to make that decision both as a consumer and as a business. The resolution shares with you our commitment as a chamber to strengthen our local economy and to invest in businesses and industries that do their work here in Fairbanks, like the panelists we've had today. I'm also very pleased to announce that Jerry Cleworth, the mayor of Fairbanks, Luke Hopkins, the mayor of the Fairbanks North Star Borough, and Doug Isaacson, the mayor of North Pole, recently signed a proclamation encouraging the practice of thinking and buying locally for businesses and residents. And there's a copy of the proclamation on your tables as well. And today is Think Local Day, today, May 15th. So thank you to the mayors for that. I think that this is a way that we can grow our community, and I think everyone in the room recognizes that that's something that we need to do.